the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Yes, I'm down. Hey, hello, and I'm Darren Hyman, and of course you're watching the one and only interactive talk show bringing the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. First up, the president of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce stops by to let us know about several upcoming events. Plus, the Department of Education has begun a new collaboration with the hopes of easing tensions between district and charter schools. And one Bronxite is coming out in support of the stop and frisk policy and saying the criticism must end. Plus, we'll introduce you to a film that's made a lot of noise at the Bronx Week Film Festival, and the director explains why the film was greeted with such a warm welcome. And finally, promoting the message of tolerance and respect using the stories inside the Diary of Anne Frank. We encourage you to stay tuned because much more is headed your way, because right now, we're officially open. Today is Wednesday, May 23rd, and of course you are watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York straight to your TV set. So we encourage you to feel free to give us a call at 718-960-7241, or if you want to, you can always email us at open@bronxnet.org, and if you're lucky, we'll open it up right here on the show. We're also one of those socially interactive stations, and we tell you that you can hit us up on Facebook by searching under Open BronxNet Television, and also by Twitter by following our page at BronxNet TV. And if you want to, you can watch us live straight from our website at www.bronxnet.org. Well, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce is one of the most active organizations, hosting numerous events to benefit not only small businesses, but also to raise funds to fight against illnesses plaguing today's society. One of those upcoming events is the 6th annual Celebrity Golf Outing. A portion of the proceeds will go towards diabetes, autism, as well as the Boy Scouts. Lenny Carroll, who's the president of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, joins us now to talk more of this event, as well as the many other ones that are coming up. And Lenny, good to have you.
Good to be on your show.
Hey,
always good to see you. Great.
Let's talk about this. You got your upcoming golf event. Before we talk about the golf event, big news making headlines today is the fact that you were able to come with some Yankees and visit the St. Lucie School, where students who were actually those who were killed in that tragic car crash on the Bronx River Parkway attended, and you brought the Yankees there.
Yeah, you know, we run a program with Ray Negron and the Yankees, and when we have tragedies like this, we need to bring those spirits up of those kids, and for a time those kids were really feeling it. So we had the opportunity to bring 4 major Yankees to the schools there, and we were able to get over 450 hats for the kids. So as the Yankees walked in, every kid was wearing a hat. The streams and excitement in that room was phenomenal, and it was covered by Daily News, as you can see in today's Daily News, and in the Post, as well as all the major stations were there. You know, giving back is an important thing in the borough of the Bronx, and not only would be a business community representative, but we need to help these kids, help the youths of our borough, because eventually they're going to be our entrepreneurs in the Bronx. So it's important to keep the spirits up, and I think when we left that school yesterday, it was a great feeling for all the players. As we got back on the bus, there were actually tears. The guys really felt what they did was really good.
And it was an awesome event, because just a simple fact of knowing this tragedy and how much it only affected a school, a community, a borough, and the city, you know, for the Yankees to be able to play a part in that. But that's something that you guys always work with, partnering the Yankees with community.
Yeah, you know, it's so important today. Today, it's more important to think about the youth and the future. And when something like this happens, it shows that the Bronx comes out in full strength to give support to the kids, support to the communities, and let the families know that the Bronx cares, and we're there to support you when you're in need.
Talk to us. You got an upcoming event. You got a celebrity golf outing. So you had the Yankees this week. Next week you got the celebrity golf outing. And
ironically, we have Jack Lemon's son, Chris Lemon, Roberto Clemente. We have a number of other players that are going to come and play. We'd love you to play as a celebrity golfer to support this. It'll be our honor to have you there. Last year we raised money and bought wheelchairs for kids so they had the opportunity to get to Orchard Beach, come out of their wheelchairs and get onto the sand and to the water. This year we've adopted autism, juvenile diabetes, and the Boy Scouts. And in Truman High School has one of the biggest autism programs in the school for autism. They needed equipment, so we're going to be able to help them buy this equipment for that. But the highlight about it is each kid made a little gift that we purchased from them so that we can give out to the golfers that day. And it has the autism sign on it as well as our chamber sign. So we need to support those things. It's so important. The Boy Scouts is growing now. I'm a commissioner for the borough for the Boy Scouts, so we're in need of buying some uniforms. When we get corporate America, that we're able to raise money through a golf event. It's so important. Montefiore Hospital will be the recipient of our juvenile diabetes fund. We as a chamber can't personally give the money, but when we reach out to fundraisers like this, it's an easier task to do because a corporation wouldn't mind being a part of it. A lot of funds go directly to the 501c3s, not to the chamber, so it's important that people realize that. We make sure that the money goes there. Donald Trump was one of the biggest recipients this year, donators to this event, over $10,000 for us to give to foundations. So just to let you know, even the big guys are part of this event.
Talk to us about this, because most of the time when we talk about business, the first thing that we're thinking is take. We're always giving money to a business. We go, we shop, we do this, we do that. But from the chamber's point of view, you encourage businesses, first of all, to come together, and then not only come together, but also to be able to give back.
If you want to do business in the Bronx, you need to be able to help the people in the Bronx. And this is a vehicle to do it. I mean, corporate America can help a lot of times. They have foundations that can do it. But if someone doesn't let them know that, they can't do it. The chamber has made sure that if you're corporate America and if you have a way of helping scholarship funds, and actually want to bring that up, Mercy College is donating $10,000 to scholarship funds at this golf event. So when you're able to really educate the corporate America like the chamber does, as the president, when they come in and when they want to do business, we let them know what we do for the year. And if you can be of some help to that, we'd like to let you know that. As helping them grow, helping Donald Trump build its golf course, the new Macy's that's being built, the new electric car factory, these are all important things. At the end of the day, they create jobs, but we also have to not forget the people that need the help.
Right. Talk to us about jobs, because that's a big concern. We know about, first of all, the national unemployment rate. The Bronx has always had the highest unemployment rate in the city. Are you satisfied with the fact that business is coming back to the Bronx and the fact that the unemployment rate is taking a
Well,
better turn?
we are the booming 5 boroughs. The Bronx is booming more than it ever did before. As I mentioned, we have a new Macy's coming in. You have a new golf course. You have a new Target in Thrars Neck. You've got a new BJ's over by Riverdale. And not only that, you got an electric car factory that's coming in. You got Fresh Direct. Over the next several years, it doesn't happen right away because these facilities have to be built. We will exceed the fact that our unemployment will come down. It's a fact. When you build jobs in companies like this, they've got to hire. And one of the most important parts for the Chamber of Commerce is to make sure they hire Bronx people to fill those jobs. And we watch that very closely. So I think we're going to really change. We're on a boom that's never happened before. The Bronx is a great place to live, a great place to open up a business, and the Bronx is open for business.
Talk to us about the Chamber's upcoming events. We got the golf tournament that you got coming up. You've also had this event with the Yankees. What else is coming down the pipe?
Well, we're celebrating 118 years. I look good for 118, right?
Yeah, you sure do.
Actually, under our administration, we've celebrated 10 years. But taking back the history and going back as far as we could, we'll be celebrating 118 years that the Bronx Chamber has existed. And in that era, in the 1800s, 19s, it used to be the chamber was the one that approved mass transit changes, subways and things of that nature. Now we've gotten to corporate America. So this is going to be a big year for us. And everyone who we honored over those 10 years will be part of the celebration this year. It'll be held at the Marina del Rey. So we're very proud of that accomplishment. On June 19th, we have our Business Expo, which is free to the public, where all corporate America, local small business peoples, our trades come and show off their goods at the Botanical Gardens. It's all free to the borough of the Bronx. Please come and see it because you need to know who's in your backyard. When you come to these events, you'll find out about health benefit programs that the Chamber hosts. If you're in small business and watching this program, you should reach out to us. We have a health benefit program that can help you. We're starting now a new merchants development, which has been appointed by the city and Annabelle Palmer and Jimmy Backer, where we now have a fund to get merchants to learn to become bids. Because once you become bids, there's funding that comes to help you run those merchants and help you actually make your Merchants Association be more prosperous.
And we are seeing more bids, especially across the board of the Bronx.
Oh, absolutely. We are really on a roll. Understand, Macy's hasn't built a mall since 1992. So this will be the first time a new Macy's is being built. I was there for the groundbreaking. It will be the most stunning mall that's ever been built in our borough.
Well, congratulations yesterday on that great event, and definitely bringing some
We're
hope
going to
to
make
the
sure you
kids.
come and play golf.
I'll be there next week, next Thursday, right?
You got it. It'll be a pleasure.
You'll catch me there.
Thanks.
All right, Lenny Carroll from the Bronx Chamber of Commerce. We thank you for coming to join us here on Open. We want to tell you to stay with us, and coming up next, we'll introduce you to some more Open. But first, a new partnership, charter and district schools are now being brought together to share their knowledge for a common goal, to influence one another and children throughout New York City. But first, the Association of the Merchants and Business Professionals of Westchester Square, Inc., the new Westchester Square BID, or Business Improvement District as it's known, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and the Bronx Council on the Arts announced that took place along the streets of Westchester Square between St. Raymond Avenue and Westchester Avenue. Our Sylvia Anglin was out there, and she brings us a story.
For the fourth year in a row, the Fair at the Square delivers. Bronx Week is the celebration of the Bronx, and this year, for the fourth year in a row, the fourth annual Fair at the Square came to Westchester Square.
We're here at Westchester Square with the Merchants Association, with the Business Improvement District. I want to thank Joe Regina for putting on such a good show, John Benizio, Greg Perry. They've really done an outstanding job in making sure that as part of Bronx Week, we have good concert, we have some good booths and some material here, educational material, and everybody's having a good time during this glorious day.
Put together by the Borough President's Office, the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation, and the Bronx Tourism Council, the fourth annual Fair at the Square by the Westchester BID is a great way to kick off a week devoted to the people who matter the most in the borough.
This is now our fourth year. Each and every time we're tweaking it, we're getting better at it. We have some good local acts, and we have a phenomenal staff. Joe Regina, Janet, Mars Advertising. Okay, matter of fact, right here, Joe Regina.
Last year, we estimated we had over 5,000, maybe just under 7,000 people. And over the course of today, with the weather being the way it is, you haven't been able to cross any of the sidewalks going from here down to the park. It's just been amazing. We have to have gone way over that amount today during the course of the day.
It's great that we have a core in the Bronx of music, film, art, politics, cultural, civic leaders that do all this. You know, a lot of boroughs don't have an 11-day festival. They don't have a 4-day festival, but the Bronx is strong.
This day-long event brought together families, vendors, and local businesses, all to enjoy the fourth annual Fair at the Square.
It's a nice event. Nice family event. Got a lot of things going on. Singing, food.
The third day of Bronx Week 2012 kicks off with Fair at the Square. From cover bands to original artists to even impersonators. For more information on Bronx Week 2012, please visit ilovethebronx.com. Reporting for BronxNet, this is Sylvia Anglin.
And support. The New York City District Charter Collaboration Compact, signed by the Department of Education is a commitment to address issues between district and charter schools. Out of this commitment, the New York City Collaborates was created, and through this initiative, charter schools have the opportunity to come together, share information, and dismiss any previous illusions people had of charter schools. Here now to tell us more on New York City Collaborates is District Charter Collaborations Manager, Kara Volpe. We welcome you down to the show.
Hi,
and
Darren.
Good to have you.
Great to meet you. How are you?
I'm good. Talk to us a little bit about this collaboration between, charter schools and city schools.
Sure. So, like you talked about, it's part of a larger citywide initiative to encourage collaboration on a variety of levels. But NYC Collaborates is specifically about on-the-ground collaboration. So what would really great collaboration look like between schools and within communities and from teacher to teacher? And we know that there's a lot of energy around this. We know that teachers want to share, and we know that principals want to share and learn from one another, and that's what we're trying to do through NYC Collaborates, is actually facilitate opportunities for this to happen.
So how do these opportunities present themselves? Because obviously you've got a lot of ground support, and you've got a lot of people who are actually taking part. How are you able to connect the dots here?
Well, a lot of hoofing it through these 5 boroughs. I think a lot of it really is about getting out into the field and talking to people and understanding, before we start creating all of this programming, what do you want? Because you're the principal or you're the teacher who's doing this work. So after a lot of conversations with teachers and leaders and community members and elected officials, and it totally ran the gamut, what we were seeing is that a common theme that kept coming through is that we want to collaborate and we want to learn. Even the schools that are doing really well want to share, and they want to be even better, and we're seeing that on both sides. And based on that, we came up with this first set of programming, which were these Bronx School Study Tours. And they were based in the fact that people wanted to visit schools, and they wanted to learn from one another, and there frankly aren't really any formal venues to do that currently. So you might know somebody, you might be able to do it through your network, but to do it at a real citywide level, to visit schools that maybe you hadn't heard of before, didn't have access to, that didn't exist. And so that's what we're doing. So we picked these schools, and we picked this topic based on stuff that we were hearing from people on the ground about things that were important for them to focus on.
So they have an opportunity to visit these schools
that
they traditionally may not have had the opportunity to have before. What's been the feedback coming out of this year?
Really, really positive, and I think something that's really worth emphasizing is that this is not just about charter schools for us. We know charters are doing great things, and we know district schools are doing great things, and it's really about bridging those two things together. And so the feedback has been positive on both the charter side and the district side. We're finding that people were signing up for these visits. Schools that we had never heard of or been in contact before were coming out in droves. And so we're seeing people from both district and charter schools coming out to visit, and they're visiting district schools and they're visiting charter schools because the visits encompass a mix of both of those camps.
Talk to us about the charter schools, because there is a lot of positive flow about charter schools, and then you hear on the other side there's some people who absolutely feel. What is the conversation that's being had about charter schools and the fact of debunking some of these myths and these stereotypes? Are you able to deal with that?
I think that's part of the work, and I think what we ground all of this work in is that this is about choice for kids, and that choice comes through things that the district is doing, and that choice comes through the mechanisms that charter schools provide. And we actually just saw data that's telling us that there are almost 5 applicants for every charter seat in the city. So we know that parents are saying they want choice and that there's demand for it. I think that charters themselves and the sector and the DOE and that all of us are starting to have the really big picture conversation about what are the things that might be true that we need to talk about? So how our enrollment numbers look different? Who are we serving? Who are we not? And how can we be better on all of those fronts? But I think what NYC Collaborates is trying to do is move the conversation back to the actual on-the-ground work in the classroom. Because at the end of the day, you are a teacher in the Bronx working with kids who are neighbors of kids in another classroom. And we really think that focusing in on it that way is what's going to begin to dispel some of this stuff naturally, and what's going to allow people to actually focus on the really good stuff and focus on what's going to make an impact.
What are we hearing from teachers in all of this conversation?
That's a good question. You know what? I don't spend as much of my time talking to teachers in this particular role, but I used to teach. So I've taught at a really big district middle school, taught at a really high-performing charter, and I've taught at a struggling charter. So I think about my own experience as a teacher, and I don't think they're actually talking about all of the big district charter craziness. I think they're talking about, I come to work at 7 in the morning prepared to hopefully change kids' lives, and I don't always feel prepared to do that. And I don't always know who to talk to, and I don't always know who to partner with. So I actually think the teacher conversation, in my experience and what I hear my friends and my colleagues talking about, is that they actually don't want to talk about all of the political stuff. They want to actually talk about math and Common Core and what it means to instruct ELL students in a really effective way.
Are people as equipped as they need to be these days from what you're finding out? Because when you talk about teachers, you hear a lot of talk about the fact that, you know, we're not as equipped as we need to be for the classroom and for
Sure.
dealing with it. And I guess that falls into line with some of the stuff that you got to deal with.
Yep. I think that we are making national strides on what teacher preparation looks like, because it looked the same way for a really long time, and now we're seeing a variety of programming that's starting to attack it in different ways. So there are some programs in New York City where people can do an actual residency in a high-needs school, and that way they're getting their degree and kind of learning on the spot. All of this to say, I think it's hard. Until you get to the classroom for your first day, you can be talking about things in an academic setting until the cows come home. And then you get there and the reality strikes and you need to know who to actually turn to. So I think that even for teachers who are really well prepared, the reality is that you're in this work because you want to talk and share. And that even if you go in thinking you know everything, months, years into your career, I think people are still aching to like get to the next step and to be better. And that's the kind of resources that we want to connect them with.
Walk me back to the Bronx School Study
Sure.
Tour program,
Yep.
because that's something that you guys, did and you were able to implement. Coming out of that, what are some of the things that you could say looking forward will probably be enacted?
Yep. So to go into a little bit of detail about those study tours, part of what I'm hoping is that people will actually walk away now with a new group of colleagues to network with. So not only are you going to these schools and talking to the principal and observing classroom and receiving professional development, but at the end of the day, you can walk away and you know that there's 15 other people who are specifically thinking about infusing character education or who are specifically thinking about how to support teachers in their own development. So I think that's one hope, is that coming out of these, people are beginning to form connections and network that they might not have had. These Bronx study tours are a pilot, so we're hoping that will be in Brooklyn or that will be in Manhattan, or we're hoping that maybe we'll focus on specific topics like special education or Common Core. And so the actual content is to be determined, but we're seeing a real desire for this. We want to expand the study tour piece of it. And then we want to think about what other programming looks like. So what is small, intimate programming where we're bringing people together, or maybe what are some bigger picture conferences or summits or other things where people can come together and talk.
Your name is NYC Collaborates, but I want to ask the question about networking, collaboration, and things of that nature. Because obviously it seems as though the people are being exposed to a new realm, if you will, of networking and collaboration. Has this been a major gap in the educational system, the fact of having the ability to network and collaborate and be able to partner with other people?
I think it's particularly hard in New York City given how big it is. And frankly, New York City actually has a lot of great professional development, more so than a lot of other cities, but it's somewhat disparate. And depending on where you are, depending on what network you're a part of, you might have a small, intimate group that you're familiar with, but what's not as readily available is the opportunity to like really think outside of the box and to learn about people who you might not have heard of before. So I think that it exists. I think it's hard to navigate, and I think it's hard to navigate when you're a teacher working that much or you're a school leader working that much and you're not always sure where to start. So that's what we tried to do, is identify schools that are doing really good work, who wanted to open their doors and wanted to share what they're learning.
Give us some more information for people who want to be able to tap into you and find out what you're doing. How can they get in touch with you?
So go to our website, www.nyccollaborates.org. You'll find a little bit more information about the compact and about NYC Collaborates. You'll find information about the school study tours. And that website is a work in progress, so keep checking back, because we're hoping that we'll have podcasts and interviews and other resources for people to access digitally too.
Kara, thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
and sharing
Darren.
with us. Good
Pleasure
to
to meet you.
All
Take
right,
care.
All righty. Well, we encourage you to stay with us. Guess what? There is more open coming up right after this. But before we go, the New York City Department of Probation, Workforce One, FedCap, and Columbia Law School hosted Second Look, Second Chance, an education forum where Bronx businesses learned about the benefits they can get from hiring people with a criminal record. Victoria Pavlova has this story.
Many people facing incarceration today fear not the life behind bars as much as the life after their release. Fitting into the real world can be a real challenge for them, and this is when a second chance comes into play.
A big issue for a lot of the people on probation is, can they get a job? We're trying to reach out to employers in the Bronx and say, look, give these guys a chance. We don't want them at the front of the line. Just let them get on the line.
This educational forum provided an opportunity for small businesses to learn about the different benefits of hiring people with criminal records and to help employers understand the power that they have to give a second chance.
As opposed to hiring somebody off the street where it's always a risk or a gamble, is that here you have a whole host of people that come with us. So you have a problem, call us.
In an era right now where, money is tight, businesses are slowing down in their source of income, I think that a forum like this allows them to see what other type of tax credits is available.
And the community can also benefit from the employment of people who have been convicted of crimes in the past.
One of the big focuses is giving Bronx citizens jobs in the Bronx. So working in and around that community, they take more of a partnership and they're more involved in that community.
3 Columbia University Law School students presented facts and statistics from their extensive research on Americans with a criminal record. And this includes some 7.2 million people who are currently in jail or prison on probation or parole.
The sad reality is the number continues to grow. The recidivism rate continues to grow. But if we can offer these young men and women an opportunity to build a career, to build trades and skills, then we can keep them at home where they belong.
A Bronx County probation officer shared the motivation and the potential that she sees in the people she works with on a daily basis.
I have young people who sometimes genuinely made a mistake, that even though they're on probation, they're going to school, they're applying to colleges, they're getting accepted into colleges, they're applying for jobs, they're getting accepted for jobs, they're making a 360. And all they really, really want is a chance.
Reporting for BronxNet, this is Victoria Pavlova.
And remember, we are a live and interactive talk show, so please join in on the conversation by calling 718-960-7241 or send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. And of course, if you are lucky enough, we will open it up right here on the show. The New York City Police Department's policies are no strangers to making headlines, no matter how effective or controversial they are. In recent news, one in particular has garnered attention, and that is the stop and frisk policy. Many are saying that the NYPD is misusing this policy, and cops are being accused of racial profiling. Our next guest is in support of the stop and frisk, saying that instead of badgering cops for the use of stop and frisk, those opposed to the policy should praise those who risk their lives to protect us. Sheikh Musa Drame now joins us on the show, and no stranger here to open. And it's an unusual position, if you will, because a lot of people say, listen, when it comes to the area of stop and frisk, we understand that minorities are disproportionately affected, but you're saying, let them do it. Why?
Well, anyway, thank you very much for having me here one more time.
No problem.
It is a political season, and in a political season, politicians take opportunities for the sexiest story around, and that is now stop and frisk. Yesterday, one of the daily publications saw the numbers. African Americans make up about 23% of New York City population, yet they commit 70% of all the robberies and 80% of all the shootings, and 98% of victims of New York City from crimes and violence are African Americans and Latinos. Now, more than 5,000 lives have been saved so far because of this program. What we need to do, we need to protect our children from getting into gang situations and illegal guns and violence, not demonizing cops who sacrifice all their life to protect us.
Do you understand the other side's perspective, though?
Well, the numbers are the numbers. Numbers don't lie. 23% of the population commits 80% of the shootings, and younger African Americans are dying. I cannot understand anything other than protecting our children from illegal guns and criminals.
Is there another alternative?
The alternative is that we have to have strong leadership in making sure that we protect our community. I run a school. I know exactly the mentality of most parents. You have 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds being kicked out of school because the parents are not suitable enough to provide leadership that our children need. I have 11 years school experience, and every time we have a problem with a child, you trace it home. Every time you have a child excelling in school, you trace it home. We have to provide leadership to our children so that we can build another successful, more positive generation. It's not about race. It's about crime and violence.
Well, that's what was being said. I know there's an article that talks specifically about that. I want to get your perspective on this then. If stop and frisk is not basically about race, it's about dealing with the crime. The question that comes into play is how do you deal with the whole situation as a whole then? Do you continue to engage in the stop and frisk policy, or is what some people who are not in favor of stop and frisk say, listen, we can create some more healthier alternatives? Are you saying that basically just keep going with what we got so far?
They have not come up with any workable solution, none. The police commissioner went to the city council, and when he was being attacked for the program, he asked them, what is your solution? Not a single one of them came up with a single solution. The only thing that they're doing is they're using, the sentiment feeling because, blacks and Latinos are angry because their youngsters are being stopped. But I would rather be stopped 20 times than be shot at. And I was shot at 2 times. My face slashed. I got beat up in my own house of worship. My children needs protection from the criminals. Now we live here in the Bronx, 4 miles away from Wall Street. A young black couple who buys a house in the Bronx can live there for 10 years without seeing any property improvement because criminals move into these corners and the home price go down. Businesses run away. Even schools, you cannot get good teachers. The teachers who are teaching our children are only there to do enough so that they can pay their bills and get retirement. But they cannot fully, practice their professional, competency on our children. Then we go and attack them. We have to be truthful to ourselves in order to protect our children.
But can you truthfully admit that there's a risk factor when it comes to stop and frisk? When you look at cases like a Sean Bell, if you look at cases like Amadou Diallo, you look at cases where you see that there's this question of excessive police force that is connected with necessarily the stop and frisk policy. Do you understand at least the perspective from which critics say that, listen, stop and frisk, this is some of the things that are associated with stop and frisk. It works in some cases, but in some cases you could also see the negativity. Hence is probably why you hear some of these political detractors say what they say.
Amadou Diallo's case, for example, the detectives were looking for a rapist attacking all these young black girls in the black communities. And these detectives were going around the Bronx looking for these perpetrators destroying our community. Unfortunately, through that, they met Amadou Diallo. Whatever happened, happened. It has nothing to do with race. They did not leave the detective positions to come and kill Amadou Diallo. That's what I told the border president. I wrote many letters. I said, let's stop politicizing the work of law enforcement for political expediencies. Now, I have a friend whose son was straight-A students. December 4 was murdered right here in the Bronx. His life is no less important than Amadou Diallo or Sean Bell or Trayvon Martin. We have to protect all our children, and we have to work with the law enforcement. Today, NYPD is more diverse than any time before. Today, the cry of racism and prejudice should stop. We have the top leaders in the United States who happen to be African Americans. We have to get involved, we have to vote, and we have to know what is going on. Let's stop destroying our communities by blaming blameless people. And the law enforcement, most of them now are African Americans and Latinos. Now they move from races to say, oh, it's the blue wall of silence and all these things. We have to be truthful to ourselves in order to protect our future generation.
Understanding you did a good job of trying to educate myself and the viewers who are watching. Is there going to be some sort of education process through you or through people who are in favor of stop and frisk to, quote unquote, sensitize the community to saying it's okay? Because there is a certain amount of people in the community who feel a certain type of way and they need sensitivity education. Or is that in the works?
The problem or the challenge we have is that the leadership is not truthful to their constituency. They would rather create a big international fuss about one case instead of 5,000 to 10,000 young lives being destroyed. The black leadership need to come out and condemn black on black violence. If that happens, I guarantee you, nobody will attack the black community. In New York City, the whites commit less than 2% of the crimes according to the numbers. Now you want the NYPD to frisk as many whites as the blacks and Latinos who commit crimes. Doesn't make sense, and it will not happen.
Sheikh Musa Drami, thank you for joining us here, right here on Open. And we want to let you know that you can stay tuned to Perspectives. And Sheikh Musa Drami will be talking about this particular issue and then that and much more in depth on Perspective. So we encourage you to check that out as well. And thank you, Sheikh, for joining us. All right, well, Rasheed Wiles is up next, and he's going to give details as to why critics are giving his film 2 thumbs way up. We'll tell you about that in a second when we return right here on Open.
Your education is the key to your future. And if you're a high school student, your next stop is college. A college education gives high school graduates a competitive advantage professionally and financially. Without it, your job opportunities are much more limited. A college diploma is a necessary requirement for any successful tomorrow. So make sure you're prepared. Speak to your guidance counselor. Visit your local colleges. Your education is the key to your future.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Be free. Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad.
Charles!
Nice, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Well, you may remember here on Open very recently, Gregory Chagrenas, co-founder of the Bronx Week Film Festival. He appeared on our show and spoke highly of a film by filmmaker Rasheed Wiles. The movie is True Story that tells the story of Hakeem, a young African-American living in New York City who is, although he is a great father to his daughter, he wants a chance at happiness with the right woman. Well, we're pleased to have Rasheed with us now to talk more about the film and the response he's receiving from those who've seen it. And he is also joined by actor Damian Omar Lee. And we welcome you both to the show, and good to have you.
Thank you for having us.
So, congratulations first and foremost on this. And are you surprised by the amount of success that this is garnering?
A little bit. A little bit. You know, because when you're doing something like this, you work on it so long and spend so much time with it, you never know how people are going to react to it when they see it.
Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the concept. Where did you get the idea about True Story?
Well, it deals with a lot of different social issues, and a lot of these issues weren't being dealt with at all in any sort of medium, film, music, or anything for that matter. So I felt like these are things that I needed to speak about.
Mm-hmm. David, you dive into character here.
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about your character and the role that you play.
My character is Fred Lynch. He is the antagonist in the movie. He is what everybody would portray as the bad guy, the villain. But more than that, I just kind of look at him as just, like you said, diving into character. I look at him as just, misunderstood. He's just like that regular guy on the block that, just speaks his mind, doesn't hold his tongue. He says everything that everybody's thinking, but doesn't want to say. And that's why people like him so much. So, I kind of take everybody through that journey, through different emotions and stuff like that. So.
Why do you think the movie has such this appeal? Because obviously, Gregory spoke well of it. We've heard the great reviews that are coming out of Bronx Week. Why do you think your movie's having that kind of appeal?
Because it's organic and the characters are real people, and nowadays in film you don't really see that. It's like you see, a caricature or a model kind of dressed up, but they don't have layers. And these characters have layers. They're dealing with real issues, and they're responding to it naturally. So, people, it touches people, hits people at home.
So now that you've had this success here at Bronx Week, what are we going to see in the future? Because I know you got some things coming down the pike. What's going to happen here?
Well, basically we're just pushing True Story right now. We're just trying to get into as many festivals as possible and get as many eyes on it as possible. So,
all right, let me do this. Let's take a little look at True Story.
Okay.
And we're going to take a look at True Story, and then we're going to come back and we'll have a conversation again.
So
some friends in your life for seasons, man, and maybe our season with Fred is over.
Yeah, your baby mama's been coming around here asking about you.
I'm pleading with you to get back with me for the sake of our daughter, and you brushed me off for some next chick?
What?
Oh, you think I didn't know?
You lost your girl. You can't see your daughter. I think you need to get your job back.
Get off of me. Get off of me.
I'm sorry.
Move.
I can't.
You're a good person, son. And good things gonna come to you. Everybody always get dealt the hand they deserve in this life. True story.
Is it a true story or is it a perfect lie? Do I need to like that?
There you see a little bit of True Story, and just got a little bit of a taste of it right there. And talk to a little bit, just a little bit, because that's you got to make the people come out now.
Oh yeah,
you definitely whet the appetite right there. That's what it does. So talk to us about where you shot this, because this looks a whole lot like some places we know.
Oh yeah, we shot it all over the Bronx. We shot some places in on the Grand Concourse. Some of the scenes we shot 169 in Clay by Webster Avenue in the Bronx. That's where a lot of the exteriors took place for the most part. We shot all over the place, Fordham Road section, Kingsbridge section, around there. So,
So Damien, you get up in people's faces and tell them exactly what the real deal is, and you say what everybody, you know.
I try to be a bit more discreet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just me. I'm just myself, just a happy-go-lucky kind of cat. You know, just like to just have fun. That's just my personality.
What do you think that people are going to take away from the experience of your character and the movie itself? What do you think they're going to take away?
Oh, I mean, just overall, just like you said, just the honesty in all the characters, whether it be good or bad. You know, it's just like when you look at this movie, it's almost like you're looking outside your window because you know these people, you know these characters. You can point somebody out and be like, yo, I know, Hakeem, I know Fred, so it's people are going to be able to relate to this movie just like that, and that's why it's getting all the love and attention it's been getting.
So from Bronx Week, where do you go from here now? I mean, obviously you've had great success here. I know you're trying to get the film shopped around and seen around, so what's going on nowadays?
Well, right now, I mean, being that we just put it in the can, that's a technical term.
Yes. You're talking to the right people here.
Exactly, right, exactly, yeah. So the Bronx Week thing is our first festival. So we're going to try to hit as many festivals as we can, so we're in the process of that now. So that's the next step. We should have a few more screenings around the city because the response has been so great. People wanting to see it, so we're going to try to set up a couple venues where it can be seen again.
How long did it take you to get it going?
It took 2 weeks to shoot, 15 days to shoot, but it took a lot more time than that to get it done.
Edit and get together.
Yeah.
What about the cast? How did you go about selecting cast?
Well, one of my cast members, I worked with him before on a short film I did a few years ago, and they plugged me in with some people that they had worked with in the past, and it kind of just came together, and the cast is incredible.
Nice working environment.
Yeah, right. It was great. No egos, no divas. It's just everybody's professional. I feel like everybody brought the best out of everybody else. So it just seems like you see it when you watch the film. Like everybody was on their A game.
What advice do you give to people? Because you're an actor on the way up, and we know that you're on your way up. And what advice do you give to people? Because a lot of people go for that great big gig, and if you don't get that great big gig, then they just kind of like lay there.
Right.
What advice do you give to people about getting involved in shorts and getting involved in docs and things of that nature?
I say be patient. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You see cases where people, are overnight successes, but a lot of times it's not the case. And it's just all about keep working at it, keep doing it, don't quit, don't stop, and just know that eventually it's going to happen if you stick with it. And then, depending on which way you want to go, some people create their own films like Rashid did. He made it happen for himself. You can go that route too, but there's always a way to make it happen if you really want to do it.
Talk to us about that before we leave, because you talked about the fact that you making your own film, so you don't wait for somebody else to say, "Listen, you go ahead,
Not
and
at
do
all.
it." So give somebody the insight on what to do.
Well, I mean, you have to work hard. You have to do your homework, do your due diligence. You have to make sure you study the craft, whatever craft it is, and find ways of doing it yourself. Don't depend on anyone to come knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, buddy, you know, I have $10 million. I want to hire you as a director." It's not going to work. You have to, you know, make your own way. So that's basically all I can tell someone.
Well, thank you guys for coming and sharing with us. Best wishes for True Story.
Thanks for having us.
You gotta let us know as things begin to progress. You know, we bring you back. You let us know. You know, we'll keep the word out there.
Certainly.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All righty. Want to tell you, stay with us, because guess what? Coming up after the break, the Anne Frank Diary is more than a memoir. The stories inside have helped create the intuition with the goal to confront hatred and bigotry. That's up next when we return.
G-Morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
For you. Hey, Mom. You know, girls, I used to cheer back in my day. Ready? Okay! Go team!
That was amazing, amazing, amazing. Mom, that was amazing.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Your education is the key to your future. And if you're a high school student, your next stop is college. A college education gives high school graduates a competitive advantage professionally and financially. Without it, your job opportunities are much more limited. A college diploma is a necessary requirement for any successful tomorrow. So make sure you're prepared. Speak to your guidance counselor. Visit your local colleges. Your education is the key to your future.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education. So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live United for Education. Give, advocate, volunteer. Go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
New York City students are getting a chance to learn about the life of Anne Frank in a brand new way. There's a simulation of Anne's room, or a simulation of Anne's room, pictures of her family, and quotes directly from her infamous diary. This exhibit is a part of the mission of the Anne Frank Center, which opened its doors in March. The center uses the diary and legacy of Anne Frank to educate the youth on the consequences of racism and discrimination, and teaches them how to create a community of respect and acceptance. Here now to tell us more about it is the Director of Education, Maureen McNeil, and with her is Dr. Janet Kremenitzer, and we thank you so much for joining us. Did I get the last name right? Kremenitzer. Got it, all right.
All of my students will recognize that.
Right. I had to get it down, so I'm a student too, and I got it together. Thank you guys for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So give us a little bit of a history about this and how you guys are working.
Well, the Anne Frank Center has actually been around since 1977, and our mission is to fulfill our mission. We create programs and exhibits, and to teach literacy and tolerance, and use Anne Frank as a role model. So she was one of 1.5 million Jewish children who died in the Holocaust, but we know her because of her diary. She took action and wrote a book that changed the world, so she's a great role model. And so we do a lot of collaborations with organizations around the city, and here we're collaborating with Janet Kremenitzer, professor at Lehman College in emotional intelligence.
Yes, yes. Well, as earlier when you had your guest on, the key thing is teachers. Like, teachers are changing the world. However, if the teachers are burnt out, or if they're under extreme stress, which is really what's going on today with teaching to the test, they need to develop their own self. And what we are doing is an emotional intelligence approach, both for the children and for the teachers, to really give them the ability to know how they feel themselves, which Anne very strongly knew, and then later in her diary how she would relate to other people. So it's a collaboration that I saw very early on as being great with the Anne Frank Center, because the diary is so strong, and I started using that in my own graduate classes to have students understand child development. And then I read in the newspaper that there was an Anne Frank Center in the United States, and we then took it from there, took it to PS 43 in the Bronx, and have a program now where we are working with the teachers and the students on developing their own skills.
Talk to us about this, because what is the feedback from students as they participate?
Well, the Art of Self-Discovery is the name of the program, and we send in, well, first of all, the students visit the center, meet a Holocaust survivor, read a diary, keep a diary of their own, and then work with visual artists over an 8-week period to help create their own stories. And they start with self-portraiture, so that they're looking at themselves. They're looking at their outside of the way the world looks at them, the way, you know, they're often discriminated against, and then they understand that there's an inner self that might not match that outer self. So they through the emotional intelligence, then the teachers become role models and help the students.
It's like on the airplane where they say, you know, before you assist children, you put the mask on yourself.
That's right.
So we have to work with the teachers in creating emotional literacy for themselves, to be able to use appropriate words, to understand themselves, to understand the children, and then they are the role models for the children to really receive the story.
Give us, before I go there, give me a little bit about emotional literacy, because somebody who's out there listening.
This is the book that just came out, where I use this with professional development, which we were talking about earlier on, for the teachers to really have the skills, because, you know, they can come in with wonderful curriculum, as we have with the Anne Frank curriculum, but if the teachers are screaming at the kids about learning about tolerance, that's not too great. Right?
Right.
So we have some emotional intelligence skills that we work on with them, which we call the ruler.
Right, you hold that right there, and then make sure we got
okay.
The ruler. Okay.
The ruler. And this way, these are all the research base from my work also at Yale University before coming to Lehman. We did a lot of research on emotional intelligence, and we want the teachers to really have these skills and teach it to their students. So these charts are in all the classrooms, and there's another one on the mood meter. Know, trying to figure out what your mood is before you go into the classroom and try to teach child development or work with the students and appreciate the Anne Frank curriculum.
I'm +5 today.
Okay, well, you have to be where are you, up here and over here.
Okay. So you have this ruler, and then you have this opportunity to really be engaged. What's been the I would say the reception of teachers as they're learning more about this here?
They're very happy because they have better classroom behavior, and they themselves are calmer.
We have an excerpt from one of the teachers, because this is part of the research that my involvement with Lehman is to do research on this. And one of the teachers says, our emotional intelligence work together helped me to better manage and regulate my own emotions by recognizing potentially difficult situations ahead of time.
Yeah, the students actually are able to express themselves and talk about issues in their own lives in the way that Anne Frank did. So.
And her arc of getting to this is very, very, very wonderfully portrayed over a 2-year period, because she was using her diary as a way of helping herself, but now as it is a way for children and others to really understand how emotions impact your thinking and how emotions can save you if you're in control of them.
For instance, Anne Frank was reading back through her diary and realized that she wrote that she hated her mother. And that is a real teachable moment, because she had to think about, she was very upset that she wrote that, but she realized that hate is a common emotion, but it's not to be denied because it is human to hate, but it's not to be acted upon for the good of the community. And so this is the first step that she takes in her diary, and that she takes responsibility for herself, for her own actions. So she begins to grow up when she accepts that responsibility. And the rest of the diary is really an internal struggle as the outer war goes on, but to really win independence and become a critical, independent thinker. In the end, she says she's most proud of her self-knowledge. Because when you understand yourself, then you understand others, and you grow empathy. You have empathy for others.
And for teachers, they're very familiar with the term multiple intelligences, and two of them that relate to emotional intelligence are intrapersonal, understanding yourself, and interpersonal, understanding others. So with our children, they can very much relate to Anne intrapersonally, but then how did she relate to other people? And it becomes a wonderful example of these key skills of understanding yourself and understanding others. So professional development for teachers really is a must. And earlier on you had with the charter school and discussing the idea of professional development. And this is probably the X factor in teaching, is teachers being emotionally intelligent.
Give us, before we leave, some information. If people want to tap into this and get more information, how do they go about doing that?
You can go to the Anne Frank website, www.annefrank.com. You can, there's information there. That's probably the best.
And I'm a professor here at Lehman College. This is my second home, so you can contact me through the Department of Education at Lehman College.
And this book, is it available? Or?
Yes, you can purchase this from National Professional Resources. I'm not here to sell the book.
No, but you know, you can also mention it. Your name is there, right?
Right. I'm the co-author of the book, and this is really a guide for teachers to understand how they can implement emotional intelligence programs, such as our very special one, the Anne Frank Emotional Intelligence Curriculum.
And we're hoping to expand our program into the Bronx. We are in third grade through high school.
And President Fernandez, who is our president here at Lehman, his mission is for the universities to really go into the schools and to really help the children of the Bronx. So hopefully this can be expanded and go beyond our borough as well.
All right. Well, Dr. Kremenetzer, thank you so much
for
coming to share with us. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Great to have you. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's show. But guess what? It's been a pleasure coming into your homes. Of course, we want to thank our guests for joining us, but most of all, we want to thank you for tuning and watching in. And you can tune in tonight if you missed any part of the show for the recable cast at 10 p.m. That's on Channel 67. And if you're a Verizon Fios, you know, of course, that is Channel 33. Now, you desire a brand new fresh episode, come back Friday morning and she'll bring you a brand new
Get out the way.